On this episode of Mythbusters, Adam and Jamie cross a bridge too far.
Hi, Mom.
As they test a cliffhanger of a movie myth.
Did you hear me? I said running from explosions.
Can you really leap up on a bridge
3, 2, 1.
that's going down?
Like a knife edge.
Meanwhile, there's hail hijinks
Get inside now.
as Carrie, Tori, and Grant break the ice,
Here comes the hail.
finding out if the mother of all hailstorms
Rough seas ahead.
can ever sink a ship.
Fire. Whoa. I think we got a problem.
Who are the Mythbusters? Adam Savage
That's the spirit, soldiers.
and Jamie Hyneman.
I'll be darned.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Together with Carrie Byron,
That is messed up!
Grant Imahara,
Somebody order an explosion?
and Tori Belleci.
Let's chop this car up.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Jamie, you did a fair amount of mountain climbing in your youth, didn't you?
I did.
All right, this story comes from the movie Cliffhanger about a mountain climber played by Sylvester Stallone. And at the end of the movie, he is running across a suspension cable bridge on which the bad guys have put a bomb. They set off the bomb, blowing up one of the moorings of the bridge. And after the explosion, Sly, who's already running, takes 2 further steps and a final leap to safety
While the bridge is falling.
while the bridge is actually falling.
That sounds dubious.
I think the same thing, and I think that's why we should tackle it.
It's a cliffhanger climax. When a blast destroys one side of his bridge, our high-altitude hero hurls himself to safety. But can you really make a running jump on a rope bridge seconds after one side has been severed?
Obviously, I think we have to finish the story by doing it in full scale, you and me on a bridge we built that we destroy repeatedly.
Yeah, but you know what? I think we should do some bench tests first.
I agree. Perhaps just after the object started falling, there's some tiny period of time in which you can get a jump. And maybe we can tease that out in scale.
Sounds like a plan.
So first up, they're scaling this mountain myth in small scale, where they'll need a baby bridge,
That's a flexible bridge.
a boom to bust it,
That'll do it.
and a gas-powered pint-sized piston,
Hey! I love that.
which is soon getting some serious air.
Boom! Wah! I feel like we've got something really good here, don't you?
Now, to stick it all together,
So, we are trying to determine if after you've destroyed one side of a suspension bridge, could you still jump off that sucker? And this is the scale experiment we've built to tease this out. We've built a real suspension bridge, mounted hard on one side with an electrically activated solenoid on the other that allows us to precisely destroy the moorings on this side of the bridge. We also have a jumper, built off of a pneumatic cylinder that we can also control precisely. That control comes from these 2 timers, which will allow us to control the destruction of the bridge and the jumping of the jumper to within 1 millisecond. If there is anything at all to this story, this rig ought to tease it out.
yep, it's a precision bridge drop mini rig. But first up, they're going to do a control to measure the height of the jump on an unbroken bridge.
3, 2, 1.
And with that leap reaching 22 inches,
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Jamie jumps in with the plan.
To figure out how long you've got to jump off a falling bridge, we're going to start by dropping the bridge 50 milliseconds before our mini Adam jumps. Now, if he's successful at leaping away, we'll add another 50 milliseconds and try it again, and keep doing that until he's just falling and not able to leap away. That way we'll figure out what our butter zone is for jumping off the falling bridge.
So it's time for test 1, where Adam's mini-me will jump exactly 50 milliseconds after the bridge has been busted.
50 millisecond delay in 3, 2, 1.
Adam sure shut up, but how did this leap compare with the control?
You like the little pirouette?
Sure.
To find out, the guys check the high speed.
Amazing! He really did jump off the falling bridge.
where the news is good and bad.
Clearly the highest he reaches.
While their jumper did jump, he peaked at a puny 10 inches, less than half the height of the control.
I think we're ready.
So what'll happen with double the delay?
You ready?
I'm ready.
100 millisecond delay, bridge jump in 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's starting to get bad at 100 milliseconds.
Yeah, but he's still doing it.
Jumping 100 milliseconds after the bridge gets broken, Adam did make the leap, but the height is slashed to just 4.5 inches. And when they delay the drop again...
There we go, 150 millisecond jump, 3, 2, 1.
Nothing.
It really didn't look like anything.
A fraction of a second later, there's nothing left for Mini-Me to jump off. Yet in Cliffhanger, the hero seemed to have time for a running jump.
Yeah, but you know what? In the clip, he's not jumping straight up. He's jumping forward.
Right, okay, so let's run these 3 tests again with him angled.
Yeah.
So it would seem that there is a period of time after the bridge has lost one of its moorings when it is still possible to jump off the bridge. However, that period of time seems infinitesimally small, less than 1/6 of a second. But Jamie points out that our guy in the movie isn't jumping straight up in the air, he's jumping at an angle, and maybe that gives you a little more time or a mechanical advantage. We're gonna test for it.
So to match the cinematic scenario, they changed the angle of the dangle and set a new control.
Oh! Wow, he jumped really far.
Yeah.
And then the delay tests can begin.
All right, here we go. Angled bridge jump, 50 millisecond delay. 3, 2, 1. He's jumping a lot farther at an angle. There might be something here. 100 milliseconds, 1/10 of a second. Here we go.
But as the bridge plunges further into free fall, they spot the same pattern as before.
150 milliseconds.
As they up the delay, the leap length is slashed until, by 150 milliseconds, the miniature Mythbuster is barely making it to the end of the bridge.
Well, the results from our small-scale tests are interesting, but not necessarily making it look very good for this story. And while we found that a life-saving jump off a collapsing bridge is in fact possible, it's only possible within a window of about 150 milliseconds. Now, will that time change when we go to a full-scale 80-foot-long bridge? That's what we got to find out.
Now, batten down the hatches, because a storm's a brewing.
All right, I love a bit of hijinks. What's the story, Tori?
All right, so this is an old fisherman's myth. Now, the story goes that a hailstorm can be so intense that it can actually sink a boat.
What? What kind of a hailstorm are we talking about here?
We're looking at hailstones around the size of a baseball.
Okay, so does the hail penetrate the boat and make it sink because there's holes in it? Or does it fill up with hail and it sinks because it loses buoyancy?
Don't know, but that's what we're gonna find out.
There's no doubt that hail can be hostile.
Get inside now!
But could a boat really go belly up by being hammered by hail? Or is this a classic fisherman's tale?
All right, so obviously the details of this myth are a bit cloudy.
Yeah, I mean, we have no idea whether it was a hail fastball that punctured the boat or whether it was a sheer volume of hail that caused it to go under.
Well, ultimately, we're going to have to test both. So why don't we start with the puncture theory?
All right, well, we can't wait for a hailstorm. Why don't we create our own? We'll get some hailstones traveling at storm wind speeds, and we'll fire it at different types of boats.
Oh, that's a great idea. I can build a cannon that'll fire hail that fast if you guys can find out whether baseball-sized hail even exists.
Sounds good.
So first up, the guys are going to take aim at the sunk bite puncture theory. And step one is to get some ice advice, courtesy of Professor John Monteverdi.
All right, Professor, so we're talking about hail. What exactly is it?
It's a glob of ice that grows in the upper parts of a thunderstorm cloud. When it grows too large, it will fall to the ground, usually in a large mass.
All right, so the myth talks about baseball-sized hail sinking a boat. Now, can hail grow to be that big?
Oh, indeed. This video shows baseball hail.
And those things are flying. Look at that, it's actually knocking down branches. Don't you think that hail ball that size could probably sink a ship?
I think it's conceivable it could punch a hole in the ship. Depends on the material and the speed that hail gets accelerated at.
So, according to the prof, this stormy story might be true. Meaning it's on to step two, nailing the hail.
We learned from our meteorologist that hail at 2.5 inches is not uncommon. So I've come to the San Francisco Ice Company to do a little carving. Always makes me feel dangerous.
And she's dicing just the right ice.
This block of ice I'm working with is completely clear because as it's frozen, air is circulating through it. Now that's gonna make it the hardest that it can be. Give us the best possible chance. Now I've got my ice blocks, time to press them into balls. The weight should slowly press this into the mold until it's a beautiful, perfect sphere.
Yep, with her melting mold moving fast, it's not long before Carrie's box of balls are ready to get fired up.
Hail balls!
And while Carrie's been prepping the ammo, Tori's tracked down the target.
Avast, you scallywags! We got ourselves a boat!
Make that targets.
To give this myth a fighting chance, we've opted for a single-hulled boat. And by using all the most common materials, we've covered all our bases.
And those common materials are wood, fiberglass, and aluminum, all three of which may be tough nuts to crack.
And that's where the cannon comes in. We got this valve right here. It's gonna go on the tank. We're gonna run compressed air and have a super long barrel. And hopefully with all that, we'll get our hail to hail speed.
And when Grant says super long, he's not exaggerating.
Gonna need the whole shop for this.
Because the longer the barrel, the greater the chance their ice ball will fire intact.
Oh my God, that is ridiculous!
How long is this?
40 feet.
But to put that idea to the test, it's time for a test fire.
We're going to be firing hail at different speeds at our boats. And we're going to start at 80 miles an hour, which is the terminal velocity for hailstones this size.
And wrapped in a cloth sabot to ensure a strong seal, the question is, will the hail hang together for the steel plate test?
Okay, ready for 80 miles per hour.
God, I hope this doesn't pulverize the ball before it actually makes it out of the cannon.
I know, this is either gonna be a hail cannon or a snow cone maker.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Calibration test in 3, 2, 1.
Oh no, that looks solid.
It's mission accomplished. Their slice of ice survived the 80-mile-an-hour fastball without breaking up.
Ba-dum-bum.
It's like snow glitter.
Which means it's time to bust out the steel plate and take aim at the boats.
1.
In the movie Cliffhanger, our sly hero leaps up as a blown-up bridge falls down. But back in the real world, the guys ain't jumping for joy, because their mini Mythbusters bridge jump has fallen short.
It is not looking very good for the story at this point. I mean, we are finding a little window where you can get some push-up, but it's a tiny window. And honestly, I don't think that's enough time for a human to react to the sound of an explosion.
I think this is where we need to go full scale, because as we move up in size, the mass increases, there's wind resistance to consider. A lot of the physics change.
All right, so shall we go on to building the full-size bridge and launch ourselves into the abyss?
Yep.
Excellent.
So it's time to launch from a full-scale rope bridge. But first, the guys are going to have to build it.
So this is our bridge.
This is it. They just delivered it. 1,800 pounds of wood and cable.
Well, let's start putting it together.
All right.
The guys snap to it. They've got a design in mind for a classic cliffhanger rope bridge with wood planks underfoot and steel cables bridging the span. And making it all happen is Jamie's new favorite toy.
This thing's awesome.
I need to attach this cable to all these planks. Now, I don't know how this is normally done, but I've tracked down this machine here, which is a thing for nailing fences together, and it puts down really nice little staples. So that's what I'm gonna use. It's gonna make this happen really fast.
Yep, it's the old right tool for the job rule, with a twist.
Just in case you're wondering, this bridge is upside down. That way, the cables themselves are supporting the wood and our weight, not the staples. And an hour later, you have a bridge.
It's 80 foot long, heavy going,
Freaking hard to push that thing.
and ready to roll.
You know, I think we need to start marketing these and selling them.
After carefully studying the footage from the film, we believe we've made our rope bridge pretty darn accurate. It's comprised of 2 wire ropes, about 130 pine boards. It weighs about 1,600 pounds. All that's left for us to do is to attach some railings to this, take it out to the location, and we start running from explosions. Did you hear me? I said running from explosions.
And for running from an exploding suspension bridge, they've got the perfect location.
Today we are at one of our all-time favorite locations, the Mare Island Shipyard Dry Dock. They used to service nuclear submarines at the bottom of this thing. And we've filmed a whole bunch of episodes here. We did Newton's Cradle. We did Seesaw Saga here. We also did Duct Tape Bridge right behind me.
Whoa, I'm hyperventilating.
But today, the Mythbusters will be stretched to breaking point because across this dry dock, they'll rig their bridge too far before they commence their cliffhanger collapse caper.
Our plan here is really pretty simple. This is the side of the bridge that doesn't get broken. It's the permanently attached side. So we're going to weld a steel structure to hold the bridge on this side, and then we're going to lower all of this down to the bottom of the dry dock, pull it up, and attach it to its permanent mooring.
Given that the bridge weighs about 1,600 pounds, we need a solid anchoring point. So what we've done is drilled holes into the concrete around here, inserted these anchor bolts, and then we've got this sturdy steel frame that we've welded together that'll get bolted to the concrete, and hopefully it'll hold.
Indeed, with Adam and Jamie trusting their lives to this bridge,
Watch your fingers.
having it hold firm is vital.
Why don't we get him to lift the entire thing in the air, and then we just turn it around?
And thanks to a giant crane,
Okay, I need all hands over here. Let's get on this side and flip.
and plenty of muscle,
Beauty! Oh, it's like a DNA.
it's not long before the permanently attached side is permanently attached.
And go.
Perfect. That's great.
But wrangling the rest of this 80-foot monster could be tricky.
Putting this bridge into place is a little bit of a rigging trick because we not only have to lift it in place, but we have to put tension on it.
You're on.
Now, cranes are just meant to lift things. They're not meant to pull sideways. To accommodate that, we've tied a rope onto our bridge.
You are on, Jamie.
So we're going to lift it via this forklift, and we'll pull it sideways using a truck that's tied onto the end of the rope.
With the forklift holding and the truck pulling, the bridge starts to take shape.
Will you look at that?
Just not quite the shape they had in mind.
It's quite a droop.
Oh, it is going to be a hell of a lot of droop.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of back and forth here as we're trying to attain the final positioning and length of this bridge. We don't want it to be too straight because that's too much tension. We don't want it to be too droopy because that's not enough tension. We've got to find the butter zone, and that's what we're doing right now.
After a bit of toing and froing, the guys soon zero in on the butter zone.
Back up about 1 yard.
That looks like the perfect amount of droop.
And with that, the guys achieve suspension perfection.
It's a real bridge. And all I can think is, I don't want to walk out on that. And if I don't want to walk on it, Jamie really doesn't want to walk on it.
Oh, gosh.
Get inside now!
Hail can wreak havoc. But could a hefty hailstone really punch through a boat and sink it? Carrie, Grant, and Tori have their 40-foot cannon calibrated and their ice balls ready to fire. It's time to go hail versus hull.
All right, that looks good. Let's start firing the hail balls.
And the aluminum boat is first in the firing line.
The boat is perpendicular to the ground and the cannon is parallel to the ground. Now in this configuration, it's like the boat is getting rained down in a hailstorm. Now we're gonna take a shot and see how much damage it does.
And with the hail all wrapped up for the tightest fit, its first launch is at its terminal velocity.
Ready for 80 miles per hour.
But will that be enough to hold that hull with hail?
3, 2, 1.
Well, in a word, no.
Hail versus aluminum boat at 80 miles an hour, no hole.
No.
Ain't that the truth? Their first fastball barely made a dent, let alone a hole. But their aluminum boat is just the tip of the iceberg.
What's this boat named?
Fiberglassy.
Fiberglassy.
Now, fiberglass isn't as tough as aluminum,
Good to go. 3, 2, 1.
but it's still too tough for this stuff.
No hole, didn't even budget.
Next.
So what about a boat made from wood?
Steady as she goes.
And an old boat at that.
We all right?
Let's take a shot and see if it puts a hole in it.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
But the hail doesn't hold, and that's 3 boats without a breach. At terminal velocity, their baseball hail has struck out.
And we shot our ice balls at 80 miles an hour into each of our boats, and we were not able to punch a single hole. So it's not looking good for this myth. But what if the ice balls weren't just falling at terminal velocity? What if they were caught up in a hurricane and they were being blown down to Earth at 150 miles an hour?
So it's time to up the ante. Could the force of a Force 10 give the ice the impact it needs?
150 miles an hour, this is one serious hailstorm.
Aluminum boats.
Go. 3, 2, 1.
Well, not for the aluminum,
Definitely hit harder.
Good hit.
nor for the fiberglass.
The second one.
So to keep this myth afloat, their wooden boat really needs to splinter.
Looked like it did some damage, but did not punch a hole through it.
It's the best of a bad lot, but even hurricane force hail failed to impale.
So far, we've tried this at terminal velocity, 80 miles per hour, and hurricane speed, 150 miles per hour. And so far, we haven't had much success punching through our boat.
So with nothing to lose, the guys, somewhat predictably, decide to take things to the extreme.
So now we're ramping up to over 300 miles per hour, which is the highest ever recorded wind speed in a tornado. Now, I know that there's not typically hail in tornadoes, but what this myth needs right now is more speed.
And although that tornado speed is incredibly unlikely,
To 155 PSI.
will 300 miles per hour send their ballistic ice ball through aluminum?
3, 2, 1.
It was a good hit, but no hole.
How about fiberglass?
300 miles an hour.
Fiberglass boat.
Hey, it's like it's snowing in here.
So at 300 miles an hour, all the hail ball did was knock some of the paint off the fiberglass boat. There is still no hole.
So with 2 boats down and no holes to show, even at tornado speed, this myth's chances all ride in their old wooden boat.
I know 300's ridiculous, but I got a good feeling about this.
It could happen.
In 3, 2, 1.
I can't even see it.
We punched a hole in the boat. It's a perfect clear hole.
Finally, at a worst-case scenario wind speed, their boat failed to weather the weather.
That's just silly.
Or did they?
Oh, wait a minute. I think we got a problem. I think this boat is rotten.
It's rotten luck. They've scored a direct hit on weakened wood.
I think we need to try this again.
So they zero in on a zone that's rot-free.
In 3, 2, 1.
Oh my
Did it go
God.
through? I mean, it looked like some serious damage.
It did some damage, but I don't think it punched through.
Damage, but not a hole.
Yeah, that is definitely not a hole. And you're looking at a hail ball that's traveling 300 miles an hour. Now at over 300 miles an hour, these ice balls are hitting the boats at over 700 joules of energy. That is a lot of energy. And yet we have still not been able to punch a hole in the boat. So it's not looking good for this myth.
As far as penetration goes, the myth is busted. But that's only half the story, because the boat may have been sunk by the sheer quantity of hailstones.
Oh my God, it's almost filled.
But could mass alone send a boat to the bottom? In a cliffhanger myth that's high on drama and long on suspense, Adam and Jamie have strung a rope bridge to see if you can hurl yourself to safety when one side's in free fall.
That's a bridge, man. I can't wait to walk on it. I'm about to take an inaugural walk out on the rope bridge, and I honestly don't have any idea how this is going to go, but there's only one way to find out. Here we go.
It's the moment of truth as Adam takes one small step for man and one giant leap for Mythbusters.
Woo! My calves are tingling. I've never had my calves tingle before.
And while the bridge is holding firm, it's not yet all systems go.
Standing on our rope bridge is giving me some real pause about the experiments we had planned. It's making me feel a little bit spooked. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with something this big when you're purposely making it fail. So before we continue, we're going to be discussing and buttoning down every last little bit of our safety protocol.
And that buttoning down involves testing whether their bridge collapse system can safely drop first time, every time.
It's fully padded. Shall we do it?
Yeah.
No mean feat given that it's triggered by explosives.
We need to release all 4 of these cables precisely at the same time. And so to do that, Matt Herron and his team here are setting up some quick releases with squibs. They're small amounts of explosives that'll be triggered electronically so it all happens perfectly.
That's the theory. And once the bridge bombs are primed, it's time to put that to the test.
All right, blow the bridge in 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, no!
Oh no is right. Only 3 of the 4 cables break free, meaning that there's a snag, literally.
No!
But moments later,
Oh!
the bridge falls. Fully, entirely, and most importantly, without any other complications.
It's a good thing we did a test run because that's when you work out the bugs. In this case, the bug was a quick release that got jammed and it sort of left the bridge hanging there cockeyed. But now, it's my turn to go out on the bridge and do the drop.
Yep, with the bridge hoisted back up, it's time for Jamie to put this cliffhanger myth to the test. Armed, of course, with some serious safety supplies.
It's called a yo-yo. It's got a little spring-loaded pulley inside that lets the cable out really nicely until you put too much force on it, and it stops you from hitting the ground, thus saving your life.
Okay, let's go. Hook me in.
Jamie tiptoes into position, and once there, here's how the test is going to go.
To test this story, I'm going to start running full speed towards the end of the bridge. Now, when I cross that orange plank there,
Our pyro Matt will release the bridge from its moorings here by detonating 4 explosive squibs.
and when I hear that bang, I'm going to take a couple of steps and dive for that board. And we'll see whether this is possible.
Yep, for the myth to be confirmed, that boom, step, step, leap is the play they need to see. But Jamie's got other concerns.
I should point out here that what we're about to do is not a stunt. In the movies, they do stunts. They can use computers, they can do wire removal, they can do all sorts of things that you don't see in the final edit. In our case, we're doing it for real, and that implies a certain amount of risk because this thing, it's heavy, it's unpredictable what it's going to do. Once we get on it, our lives are at stake, and it's worth being really careful with.
Very careful, because Jamie's life is literally hanging in the balance.
I'm hot. He's hot. All right. Jamie, you feeling good?
Okay,
On my mark.
hold on.
Okay.
Just trying to get into the zone.
Okay.
This is it. There's no turning back.
Okay.
All right, on my mark. Bridge jump in 3, 2, 1, go!
What?
In hail hijinks, even a tornado-powered hailstone could not penetrate a boat.
Damage, but not a hole.
Yeah.
All right, so the hail did not punch a hole in the boat. Ice penetration is busted.
Totally. Now, for this myth to have any chance whatsoever, it would have to be the sheer volume of hail that's going to sink this boat.
Okay, well, it sounds like it's time for us to put a boat in the water and load it up with ice and see how much it takes to sink it if it does at all.
You know, science is really interesting. I don't know which way this one's gonna go.
Yeah, me neither.
So solo hailstones seem sunk. Yet overloading a boat is another way to send it to the bottom. And if a heap of hail can do the same, this myth might be true. But how?
Let's imagine this glass cube is a boat. The hole here displaces water with air, which is lighter than the water, allowing it to float. We bring on our hailstorm. That ice is taking the place of the air, and the boat gets heavier and heavier until the water crests the rim of the boat and starts filling it up. And then the boat is no longer filled with air. It begins to fill with water and sinks.
But will hail sink a boat full scale? To find out, the guys hit the docks with their aluminum arc
Rough seas ahead!
and a plan for one hail of a hailstorm.
Now, we've seen that a hail ball, even with a 300-mile-per-hour wind behind it, cannot put a hole in the boat. But what if we had a huge storm? What if a massive amount of hail dropped into the boat? Well, that's what we're doing out here at the Port of San Francisco. We're gonna throw a boat in the water,
That's perfect.
we're gonna make a huge storm, and we're gonna see what happens.
And they'll rustle up that record-breaking storm courtesy of a freezer truck and a conveyor belt.
All right, that looks good.
This is our own special Mythbusters massive hailstorm right here. These bags of ice are in our refrigerator truck at exactly 27 degrees Fahrenheit. They're gonna storm down this conveyor belt into the boat and hopefully sink it. Looking at that boat, I think we might actually have a shot at this.
And with that, it's time to break the ice.
You guys ready to bring the storm?
We've got a hailstorm that's 20-pound bags of ice, one at a time down the conveyor belt.
All right, well, why don't we slowly fill it up till it gets up to the rim and see if that's enough to sink the boat.
Okay, fire up the conveyor belt. Here comes the hail. Woo, it's coming down in buckets. All right, that's 100 pounds.
So we know the record amount of hailfall in an afternoon is 4 feet.
That's 200 pounds. He's coming.
So what we're gonna do is fill up our boat completely to the lip with hail.
400 pounds.
If it sinks, this myth is plausible, but if it doesn't sink, this myth is busted.
Oh my God, it's almost filled.
With the hail now piled 3 feet deep,
I see the boat's starting to dip a little.
the boat is surprisingly buoyant, and Grant knows why.
Here's the catch. See, the ice that we have, it's not just one big block. It's a bunch of little pieces. 500 pounds of hail, and it's still floating. Which means that air can get in the middle. So you're not entirely displacing the air as you would with water. All right, that's 600 pounds. But you can stack the ice higher than the edge of the boat. So at this point, it's not entirely obvious what's gonna happen.
So because ice can't fill every crack and displace all the air, if the guys stand any chance of sinking that boat,
1,500 pounds, still floating.
they'll need to pile that hail high. That extra mass may overcome the boat's buoyancy.
All right, that is a whole entire pallet of ice. That's a ton of ice. Yeah, and it doesn't even look close to sinking.
But with 1 ton down, the boat shows no sign of sinking, and the only thing to do is ramp up the storm. However, their stock of hail is diminishing fast. Are the guys going to be thin on ice?
Got a conveyor belt going. It's already dropped over 2,000 pounds of ice into the boat.
Keep it coming.
It's still floating perfectly. Now, I think that we may have grossly underestimated how much ice it's actually going to take to sink this boat. And if that's the case, we're in trouble with this myth.
The guys brought enough ice to recreate the world's heaviest hailfall of 4 feet. Even that amount is proving insufficient.
How's it going, Grant?
Are we almost there? Yeah, we're at 2,500 pounds. It's just a few more inches above water.
But by topping up with more ice,
All right, we're at 2 tons. Get more towards the back. Yeah, right there.
the boat finally starts to list. And then
It's sinking!
That's crazy!
Going! Sinking the boat with 2 tons of ice!
at last, she's going down. And while the scale of the hail may be unfeasibly large, it is finally mission accomplished.
Sunk a boat with hail! That's cool!
Or is it?
Whoa!
I think we got a problem.
It's coming back up!
Why is the boat not sinking all the way down to the bottom?
Like a phoenix from the flames, the boat rises up from its watery grave.
Maybe there's an air pocket.
So the guys hit the boat with everything they've got.
That's the last of the ice. That's 6,000 pounds down there.
It's still floating.
That is incredible.
But why did the boat bounce back? And why is it still not sunk after 3 tons of frozen freight?
So we piled our ice onto the boat, piled it on, piled it on. It's going lower and lower in the water until finally the edge dipped under the surface of the water and it started filling up and it started to sink. And then it popped back up. What the heck is going on? Well, ice floats. So once it hit the water, the ice actually started to support its own weight and was no longer pushing down.
When water flooded into the boat, the ice started to float, which meant it was no longer pushing down the boat. And so it rose from the water, meaning that sinking by hail is a fail.
All right, yeah, we did technically sink the boat, but look at how much hail it took. That's a totally unrealistic amount.
And even with this salvaged, falling apart boat, it didn't entirely sink.
This one's busted.
Busted.
But wait just a sec, because this myth's got a twist in the tail.
And fire!
Welcome back. We are testing the exploding bridge jump from the end of the movie Cliffhanger. And in this movie, Sylvester Stallone is running from a bomb on a suspension bridge. The bomb goes off and he takes 2.5 more steps before leaping to his salvation at the very end of the rope bridge. Everything is in place, and we are just about to test this in full scale.
And full scale means Jamie's going to need some fancy footwork.
Just trying to get into the zone.
Okay.
Because if this myth is true,
Okay.
Jamie needs to make his step, step, and leap after the explosion fires.
All right, on my mark.
But will he even have a leg to stand on in the first place?
Bridge jump in 3, 2, 1, go!
Jamie sprints, the bridge blows, and in the blink of an eye, he drops like a stone.
Jamie, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Excellent.
But did he make any headway?
Yeah, pretty much everything I was trying to do came to a halt the minute I heard that bang. It was just no further progress. That's all there was to it.
Jamie's right. At the moment the cables are cut, the bridge goes into free fall, and almost immediately, Jamie has nothing solid left to run on, let alone jump.
So was the timing right?
The timing was perfect. The bridge blew just before you reached the orange stair. You didn't get hurt swinging into the wall.
Well, I tell you what, when I heard that bang, it was like a knife edge. It was just like everything that I was doing was done. And all I could do was try to hang on.
So the boom, step, step, leap combo is busted. But if the guys eliminate the two-step start, maybe this myth will find its feet.
We find ourselves wondering if there is a tiny period of time when one could still get some push off the bridge even after it's been compromised. So that is what I'm about to test. I will be standing on the bridge within leaping distance of the top bar of the bridge. I will wait until I hear the explosion. No one's gonna tell me when it's coming. And the moment I hear it, I'm going to push off and go for that top bar. If I make it, then presumably there is a tiny period of time when it is feasible to leap on a falling bridge.
But can Adam's reflex leap succeed where Jamie's running jump failed?
Let's do this.
Or is it a bridge too far?
Based on my experience, once the bridge is released, the person on the bridge is pretty much done. So, as far as what Adam does, I don't think we're going to be seeing any leaping.
Jamie is skeptical.
There.
Yep.
And after a few dummy jumps,
Yeah, that's it.
it's time to put his prediction to the test.
Scary.
Are you all set, Adam?
Adam doesn't know when the boom is coming,
I'm in possession. I'm ready. Go, Matt.
but he crouches, focuses, and then
Oh! There was nothing. There was nothing at all. I heard a crack, and then there was no ground. There's no grace period there. Oh!
the fall was so fast and furious that Adam had no time at all to react.
From my standpoint, that was kind of anticlimactic. One moment there was a bridge, next moment, no bridge.
Yeah, it's like I said, once you hear that sound, it's like a knife edge. You're done.
Just like their small-scale tests, the bridge drops almost the moment the explosion happens. There's just no time to think, let alone leap.
I know it looks like I'm hanging out over a void, but technically, experimentally, I'm dead.
The moment I heard the sound, I didn't have time to actually leap or anything. I was just following. That's pretty definitive right there.
Yep, there's no doubt about it.
Oh!
Once the cables are cut, the bridge and its passenger are going down.
This is safety equipment, having kept me alive one more time. Hi, Mom.
And here's why. The moment the cable is cut, the tension disappears, and the bridge acts like a piece of rope swinging through the air, offering nothing for Adam or Jamie to jump off.
This is totally impossible. This thing is completely busted.
It is, but you know, if I was on a bridge and something bad was happening, I would think that I would just hold on to my handrails.
You want to try that?
I mean, it's an option, isn't it?
I think it is. Let's do it. Let's try it.
Okay.
Hail hijinks is busted.
That is definitely not a hole. Totally busted.
That's 6,000 pounds down there.
It's still floating. You guys, I think we're missing something really critical here.
What's that?
We've never fired a hail ball at a boat while it's on the water.
So do you think that because water's incompressible that it's going to make the boat flex less and we might have more success?
I'm not sure, but I think we have to do it.
Hey, I'm game. Let's try it.
So for this myth's final test, it's off to a fresh location, the water quality control plant.
So, since we knew you were going to send us the email, why aren't you guys testing this with a boat out on the water? It's a totally different situation. The science is different. You would be right. Now, the way we've been testing it, firing the hailstone into the boat, we're creating a little bit of flex, which might absorb the energy. But with water being incompressible, it's going to create more resistance and possibly give us that penetration we're looking for.
So will having water under the boat stop it from flexing and make a hail puncture possible? To find out, the guys will leave no cannon unturned.
Is it in?
Not yet.
And to cut to the chase, they'll only test their two most likely boats, wood and fiberglass.
Next stop, cannon.
So this is the plan. We have our wood boat and our fiberglass boat. What we're gonna do is place each of the boats in the water and start firing hail balls at 300 miles an hour into each of the boats.
Okay, I'm loading.
And we'll find out if that's enough to punch a hole in the boat and sink it.
300 miles per hour is the most extreme wind speed possible, but in the shop, it failed to fire up a hole.
Okay, fiberglass boat at 300 miles an hour.
But now, will water underneath the boat create the right conditions for a rupture?
Ready, fire.
Well,
Is there a hole?
I don't see a hole, and the boat's still floating.
While the water did dampen the flex of the fiberglass, this boat was still too tough to be torpedoed, even at tornado speed. Which leaves them with one last shot across the bows.
We had our best luck with this experiment in the shop when we used the wood boat. Now that's what we're on to now. But we switched the boats out because that first boat might have had a little bit of rot and Will was already compromised. So we're gonna throw this one in the water.
It's a perfect day to go boating.
I think that if we're gonna get any sort of penetration, it's gonna be with this boat.
But if this wood boat doesn't get a hole at 300 miles per hour when it's on the water,
We might see this thing sink.
then this hail myth is going down.
Okay, fire at will.
All right, this is 300-mile-an-hour hailstorm versus wood boat on the water.
Fire! There's a hole!
We got a hole!
Fire more!
Now that is what you call a bona fide hail hole.
Man, it's taking on water fast.
Dude, look at that. 300 miles an hour punched a hole.
All right, that did punch a hole, but I mean, 300 miles an hour, that is a ridiculous amount of speed for a hailstone to be traveling.
Tori's right. Hail has never been recorded at 300 miles per hour. So if they're to really confirm this myth, they need to slow their hailstone to a realistic speed.
So I want to know if just terminal velocity 80 miles an hour will do it.
Let's patch it up and try it.
Yeah.
You ready, Grant?
Remember, 80 miles per hour is the slowest speed that a hailstone this size would hit the ground.
Ready, fire! We have impact. That's a negative on the hole. There's no hole.
But this time, the water underneath the boat doesn't add to the impact. But there's one last speed they can try.
Now, a more realistic speed with downdraft would be around 150 miles an hour, just like our experts said. So we've repatched the boat. We're gonna send it back out, fire at this boat with a 150-mile-an-hour hailstone. If that punches a hole, then and only then can we call this one plausible.
Remember, in the shop, this test was negative. So will the water underneath make all the difference?
All right, this is a 150-mile-an-hour hailstone against a wooden boat on the water.
Okay, fire on my mark. And fire! We punched a hole in the boat! It's taking on water! It's gonna sink!
Yep, finally, there's fire in the hole.
We did it. We punched a hole in our boat with the hailstone.
So cue the Holy Boat Celebration Dance.
So we came out here to test whether you could sink a boat with hail while it's sitting on water. And what we found is that it requires a wooden boat and 150-mile-per-hour speed, which is a recorded wind speed in a hailstorm. And we found that you could punch a hole in the boat. What does this mean? Well, it means that it is possible, but it requires an extreme situation. And that's what we call plausible.
The classic rope bridge is the simplest way to span two distant points when the ground falls away in between. And it's the falling that interests the Mythbusters.
All episode long, we have been falling off of bridges, literally trying to imitate Sylvester Stallone's jump from the exploding bridge at the end of Cliffhanger. And I'm sorry to say that we have failed. This one is totally busted. It's completely not possible. However, Mr. Hyneman, in his infinite wisdom, ponders the conundrum that if he were running off of an exploding bridge and he heard a bomb go off, he would merely hold on and see what happens. So that is what he is about to do.
It's a substitute survival strategy. In case of bridge drop, is your best bet just to hold on for dear life. To find out, they add some cushioning to the cables.
I tell you what, it's going to be a lot nicer holding onto that rope than a hard steel cable.
And then Jamie assumes the position.
What's going to happen here is I'm just going to run like heck, and when the bridge blows, I'm going to try and hang on to these.
Unless you think the yo-yo here is helping Jamie hang on, it's not. It's merely keeping him from dying.
Dying may be off the agenda, but injury is always an option, especially when you're hanging on to 1,600 pounds of falling bridge 40 feet above concrete.
You know, it's kind of unsettling. It's like you know that any minute the rug is going to be pulled out from under you. You know you're going to get creamed, but you're just going to have to do it.
I know exactly what you mean. I felt precisely the same way out there.
So with the tension dialed in,
All right, on my mark.
it's the bridge's last call.
3, 2, 1, when you're ready.
And Jamie, please hold the line.
Okay, here we go.
Oh! How you doing?
I'm on. I'm
You're
holding.
You're holding yourself.
Yeah.
That is manly.
It's taken the grip of a gorilla to hang on through the fall and the landing, but Jamie's done it. And the next question is,
Climb up if you had to.
like a walrus on steroids, Jamie slowly inches his way up. The now vertical bridge has no footholds,
Come on, you can do it.
but the Hyneman is climbing out.
If you get to the blue bar, you are a hero. It's only 16 inches above your head. You're almost there.
Yet when the target's just a whisker away,
Okay.
Jamie's muscles give up for good.
If my life depended on it, I might have made it. But it doesn't.
Once again, that was a scary experiment that went perfectly. At the moment Pyro blew the bridge, Jamie grabbed onto the railings, held on for dear life, and rode it all the way to the mountainside. It was beautiful. But there you have it. I think we have tested this every way from Sunday. I think we're done dropping this bridge.
So that story is pretty much busted.
It is totally, definitively busted. I think the take home here is that if bad guys are blowing up the bridge that you're on, don't waste time running or jumping. Hold on for dear life. It's your best chance.
Yep.
Let's climb out of here.
All right.